Today, we're going to talk about a story of evolution. It's about a term we all think we know, data protection, but with AI in the picture, its meaning is changing, like right in front of us. For decades, we had a pretty good handle on what data protection was, but the world's different now. First, the cloud turned everything upside down, and now generative AI is forcing us to rethink it all from the ground up. So the big question is, have the rules of the game actually changed? Let's get into it. Okay, so to really get where we're going, we first have to look back at where we've been. For the longest time, data protection wasn't one thing. It was split up into three totally separate worlds. And look, this old model made a ton of sense at the time. You had your infrastructure teams, and their whole world was resilience, backups, disaster recovery. Then you had the security teams, busy building firewalls and defending the perimeter. And over in the third corner, you had compliance folks worrying about privacy, governance, things like GDPR. Everyone kind of stayed in their own lane, with their own goals and their own tools. This setup wasn't broken or anything. It was just designed for a simpler time, a time when data was static. It lived in a physical data center, it stayed inside a network you could draw a line around, and it was subject to the laws of a specific country. Everything had its place. And then the cloud happened. And it just completely shattered that old model. Those neat, tidy boxes we just talked about, they started to dissolve. And what began was this great convergence. This line says it all, really. All of a sudden, data wasn't just sitting in a box anymore. It was fluid. It was absolutely everywhere, being used by tons of different apps and constantly moving between them. The old boundaries, they were just gone. I mean, think about the journey we've been on. We went from these solid physical data centers to these massive shared data lakes. And now, we're in the world of ephemeral microservices, apps that can literally spin up and just disappear in an instant. So how are you supposed to secure a perimeter that doesn't even exist anymore? This completely new reality was screaming for a totally new philosophy. We had to move away from those separate worlds and towards a single, unified approach, what you could call one continuous protection model, one that's as dynamic as the data itself. So here's the big idea, the huge shift in thinking. We had to stop trying to protect the containers, the servers, the networks. We had to start protecting the data itself, no matter where it went. Protection had to basically become part of the data's DNA. And this new philosophy has a name: zero trust. It's a simple but really powerful idea. Trust nothing by default. It doesn't matter if it's a person or a program trying to get access, every single attempt has to be verified. You basically assume a breach is not just possible, but likely, and you design everything to have the absolute minimum level of access it needs to do its job. And so, what happened? Well, those three separate worlds we talked about before, resilience, security, and privacy, they were basically forced to smash together. They weren't their own little kingdoms anymore. They became these overlapping circles in one single, unified security strategy. But just when we were kind of getting our heads around this new, unified world, bam, artificial intelligence shows up. And this isn't just another piece of tech, it's an accelerant. It's adding a whole new dimension to data protection, one that moves at the speed of machines. So now, to our three overlapping circles, we have to add a fourth one, and that one is responsible AI. And it doesn't just sit on the side, it intersects with everything: resilience, security, and privacy. And it brings a whole new set of challenges to the table. I mean, just think about it for a second. We've got incredibly sensitive data being fed into these models for training. We've got AI agents running around, acting on our behalf, pulling information automatically. And then the stuff the AI creates, all that text, the code, the images, that becomes brand new data that has to be governed too. AI is both the engine and the output in this new world. So, what does this all mean for the future? Well, the really big shift in our thinking is this. Data protection is no longer some kind of roadblock. It's not a reactive thing you do after something goes wrong. It's a proactive discipline that actually enables you to innovate safely and quickly. This really sums up the whole story, doesn't it? We've gone from a world that was reactive, where teams were isolated and everything was tied to the physical hardware, to a new world that is proactive, totally integrated, and fundamentally aware of the data itself. This is the new mantra, right? The goal isn't just to lock everything down tight. The goal is to build trust right into the fabric of our systems so that we can move faster and invent new things more safely. It's all about building for trust. And that leaves us with one final and honestly pretty huge question for all of us to think about.
As we keep handing over more and more of our work to these intelligent systems, the next great chapter in data protection is going to be written by the answer to this. How intelligently are we going to protect the very AI that is now starting to act for us?